I hope you all can see my screen.
Mhm. Yes.
So again, good morning, good evening, and good night to whichever part of world you're from. Thank you for joining us today on our fifth session, which is Building Document Understanding Automation in Studio. I'm so glad that you were able to complete all the four sessions and hop onto the fifth session. So congratulations for sticking on to the series. I hope you complete and get the voucher at the end and finish your certification. And if you do have any questions, please feel free to use the chat and we'll definitely get your questions. So for today's session, we have a recap of what you learned last week, which is about the DU framework and its components and how to set up the studio, and what are the project requirements that will be required and how you would develop in the studio itself, and look at some of the mostly used activities, and also look at the most important feature, which is the confidence. And we will also share some of the additional resources and documentation that we normally use. And for today, the speakers here, trainers are myself, Priya Darshini Esteves. I've been a UiPath MVP for 5 times, and I'm also a solution architect. And Marcelo is here joining us. He's also a UiPath MVP, and he has a fantastic YouTube channel if you haven't checked it out. He's a great RPA teacher and a consultant. And we have lovely Sinha, who's from Dubai. He's also like a intelligent automation consultant. She's also a fantastic UiPath MVP. So if you have any questions, please feel free to use the chat. And please connect with us on LinkedIn. So a little bit about the document understanding framework and its components. So last week we did see what are the major components that you will use within Studio, right? So as you can see, I hope you can see this. As you can see my screen, we have laid out all the components based on the products that we use. So if you look at from the studio perspective, these are the areas where you design and build. So this is your design area where you would use Studio, Document Understanding, and AI Center to follow the DU framework. So within DU framework, we initially get all the documents from wherever source that you get from, and then you have to digitize it, making it into a machine readable form so that the machine can extract whatever text that we are using the OCR engines. So depending on whichever OCR engine that you choose, the native that we use is the UiPath Document OCR, which comes by default, and you can switch it up to any OCR engine that your organization may use. And then depending on what type of document that comes, the robot needs to know what document are we dealing with, right? So that's where the classification comes into picture. So you need to know whether it's an invoice or a receipt or like an accord form or an insurance form. So the classification basically tells what type of document that we are dealing with. And then the extraction piece comes in where you are getting all the data that you need from that document. So this is where we define what exactly that we are getting from the document. So this again is customizable depending on the structure of your document. And you can actually decide what type of document that you have based on that, whether it's structured or semi-structured or it doesn't have a layout. So based on that, you would choose what type of extractor that you will be using. And based on the extraction, we always want to validate whether be it human in the loop, and we can still use Action Center to include the business users as well for them to validate what data has been captured and whether that data is truly valid or not. And here's where the confidence comes into play, whether it was truly the value that was extracted or how much confident that the extractor is. So that's the value that it would get. So any questions so far, please feel free to use the chat. Okay. Next, we will jump on to seeing how you would set up the studio. So there are two ways that you could do it. The most common way that we would use is to use this document understanding template. Okay. You would go into studio. I'm just going to switch. And just for the sake of this demonstration, what we are going to do is not just look at just the studio from the template perspective, but if you were to build it right from the scratch using just a simple process, how you would do it. So I'm just going to show you quickly how to do that. Sorry. I don't think I shared my entire screen. So hold on my Zoom. There we go. I hope you can see all my windows now. So just like any process, we are going to open up Studio, okay? And once you pull up Studio, you're going to see all these different menu, right? So when we are building our very first process, here's where you would go to Start and look up the templates. So from the templates, you can just click on More Templates. And if you just look up for Document in here, you would see that the latest Document Understanding template was released just at the beginning of this month, like on October. So you would see that this is the document understanding process template that would come like built in with all the different components that we just talked about. So it would have all the digitization, it would have the classification, and all the extraction pieces are tied in. It also comes with basic built-in error handling as well. So all you need to do is like customize it according to your business use case. So that'll be the best possible way to start. But if you were to like start right from the scratch, I would recommend using like a very simple process. In this case, I have already just like created a process, and I know like my studio is like really slow because I'm using it on a virtual machine. So if you were to do that, the very first thing that you would do is like you would get the basic packages for any process, which is the system activities and the UI automation and the testing activities along with the Excel. Now the new template comes with Excel, so you don't have to include the additional packages. So in order to make it like enabled for the document understanding, what we would do is like you would install two other packages, okay, which will be the document understanding ML activities. So you would look up for this document understanding ML activities, install that, and along with the intelligent OCR activities. These two are the major components that enables you to use all the activities in your activities panel. So once you install them, your studio should look like this. It should have mostly the latest package version. So try to keep it anything beyond 23.10, so that way you are using the latest package version. And the more you use the latest package version, because if you're starting from scratch, it'll be always easier to use the latest version because you will always be like forward compatible as well. And in your activities, once you install the packages, you just have to look for the data extractor just to test out whether you have installed the right package set or not. So once you install, like look up, search for your packages, then you will be able to find all the different activities that we use for the document understanding framework. So as you can see, you will be able to find all the activities that we have. So it also gives you the latest features, of which you'll be able to see the generative extractor, the machine learning. So you can just test it out and make sure that you have those activities. So this is a very easy way to test whether you have the setup right or not. And even when you're using the template, if you accidentally remove some packages, this is an easy way to know like which packages that you need to install to avoid any errors. Okay, now I'm going to switch back. So these were the 3 steps that we did. Basically, just create a blank process and then install the package activities package that we talked about for the document understanding ML activities and the intelligent OCR activities. And then you would test your setup using the activities panel, looking for those activities that we've just talked about. Okay. Now, let's take a look at what are the project requirements. Because most of the companies, they love all the new features that comes with any technology, right? So within UiPath, document understanding is one of the most popular features or popular products that they sell, where it's very useful for all the organizations. But you have to keep in mind that not every process requires this solution. So you have to look at like whether your process. So this is where you bring in the solution architect and the BA to talk about what process we are talking about, whether this is a right fit for this product. Because sometimes most organizations start with a POC that they may just use it to test the product, and they may like, eventually like succeed, but with a lot of effort that requires like additional effort because the process may not be the right fit for that product. So which is why it's very important to understand the solution architect plays a key role in like choosing the right products for your process. So here's where we ask the right questions to your the SMEs. So the subject matter experts in each business will know like what the process does. So you need to set up a session with your business to understand what they're currently doing manually, to understand what is the as-is process for you to be able to design the to-be process. Here's where you would understand how are they doing it manually, how many sources are they getting it from, where does this document come from, does it come from one drive, shared drive, or like emails, like how do they get this currently. And most of the time, like people get it manually, they can actually like scan these documents, so eventually it gets uploaded to a network drive or anywhere that they require. And from there, like your process uses that. So you need to understand, you need to ask the business these questions: where does the document come from, what is the volume that they are seeing? Because let's say like in a month they just get like two documents, then you may not need to use like document understanding, because you need to have like a huge volume for you to test, for you to validate, for you to evaluate. So that's where you would need to like ask these right questions to your business to be able to evaluate that point. Okay, so always ask your business and always include your BA and your solution architect. And also, once you receive the documents, you need to understand what is the layout like. Is it like a very structured? Is it does it have like because they might be multiple vendors, and each vendor might have their own template. So, which is why it's important to understand how is the document structured. Is it fully structured, semi-structured, or do they have like no structure at all? And how do you use? Because depending on these file structure, which is where it comes into play, like how do you extract? So it's very key to understand what is the file structure. If you have answers to these questions upfront, it's very easy to like design your process along the way. And the next step is to understand whether the classification is required, because some processes might just have like one type of document for that process. So you may not even like need a classification, because if the source is only going to have one type of document, you need to decide whether you need a classification or not. And there are like other business processes that would require you having like a classification, because depending on like whether insurance form comes in or whether an invoice comes in, the process chooses like what type of document this is. So you need to ask those questions as well. And once you have the documents and you have what structure it has, now you need to decide what information, what is the data fields that I'm getting from. So there might be 100 different fields and you might only need 10 or 20. So you need to ask the business what exactly is the information that they need and where exactly is the location that they are getting it from. So that way you can feed it to your process as well, because that extracted data will be the one sent downstream to the ERP systems wherever they are uploading. So it's very key to know what information they need. And here, I would say like this is a very challenging part when you talk to the business, because sometimes the business users may not remember all the different variations, because some documents might just have 5 fields that they are using, and there might be one exceptional document that they will get like 7 different fields. So it's very key to talk to them constantly and understand like if there are any variations in the document and what data they are getting from. Okay, and then we talk about the validation, because depending on the the extraction gives you a confidence number. So depending on the confidence, even though it says 100, you might still want to have the users initially to understand that this process is going to work 100%. So for them to like gain that confidence, these validation methods like play a very key role, where you could like include the human in the loop using the action center and give them that validation piece to know that like okay, it is extracting the right type of information. Because depending on like what type of data comes in, you would choose the validation methods. Because if they are using attended, you would use just the validation station, and if you use the unattended route, like you would still use the action center. And then like what are we going to do with this data? Because now that you've received this data, you need to understand where is this information going to be passed on to, because the downstream process also needs to be designed. So which is where like you need to understand where does all these data go to, because now that you've extracted 20 fields, you need to upload it somewhere. So you need to talk to your business to understand what is the post processing steps. Once they extract this information, how do you like notify, like how do you upload it to a system, how do you notify the different people? All that needs to be talked at the project requirements phase, because it's very important to understand how your process works in order to design your to-be process. Okay. In the simple example that we just talk, like, like let's imagine there is like an AP accounts payable group that has this huge invoices, and there are like 5 different accountants that are getting these information. You need to understand how are they like getting all this information, and because each one might process differently. So talk to all the 5 different business users to understand whether there are no variations and that they are not missing any step. And once you have all the steps, which is key, then you can go to your solution design. And every time that you design a solution, you need to make it as modular as possible, so that way it's easier to test each piece, and it's not like codependent on the other processes. So if one process fails, it doesn't impact the other processes as well. So always think about what your process does. And in the document understanding process, it's always highly recommended to separate into 3 separate processes. Okay. So first is your upstream process, which is your dispatcher. Here, all you do is like gather all the information. So here's where you collect all the data that comes like, all the documents. So whether it's like downloading to a local drive, getting it from one drive, your shared drive, so get all the files ready for processing. And once you have that, using a simple dispatcher, all you're going to do is like upload it to a queue item in Orchestrator, making it ready for your subsequent process. So here you have a dispatcher, which is like your first upstream process that gathers all the information. Then you have your second piece, which will be your document understanding process. Here's where you use the template, right? You build something on Studio using the document understanding template. So using that template is what we are going to process a document. So what happens is this DU template will basically like pick up one item from the queue, do all the steps, the components that we just talked about, digitize, classify, extract, validate, and then validate and export this data. It performs all the steps. Very simple, and it's easy to test. So this way, now you have like 2 separate like solutions that you're just testing. And once you have that, then the next step that you're going to do is, now that you've extracted the data, you build your third process, which is your downstream process. This process, all it does is it receives the data from this document understanding process and uploads it to your systems. So be it your ERP system, CRM system, HR tool, whatever tool that you're using, it'll upload it to wherever that you want it. So you have 3 separate processes. First is your dispatcher. Second is a performer, which is like your document understanding performer. And third is another performer, which is basically uploading to your downstream systems. So any questions, please feel free to ask. And I'm going to pass the mic over to Marcelo. Marcelo is going to show you how this works on Studio.
Would you like to take 5 at this moment to open Q&A, or shall we wait until the end?
I think it'll be better if Marcelo shows, because there will be more questions.
Okay.
Okay. So I'll share my screen. It's just a second. Okay. Can you see my screen? Just if you can confirm.
Yes.
Okay, so let's get started first by creating the core solution. So we'll create first a part of document understanding. And then if we have time, we will set up also a simple dispatcher that will populate a queue from Orchestrator. And so our document understanding performer will consume from this queue. And yes, so first, as Priya said, we have to have the package installed, so the intelligent OCR and the document understand.ml activities packages. And so with that, first, we have to have some sample files so we can start to develop and test the project. So here I'm using the ones that are available on the Academy learning plan on this IA associate series. So I might share here also on Zoom so you can follow along more easily. So I'll just drop on the chat the samples that we'll use so you can also follow more easily. So this is the ones that you can find also on the learning plan. So the first step, so before starting, let's just take a look to the files that we have. So I'll just drag here, just open on my side here. So you can see, basically, we have here some invoice files that have from different vendors. So the layout varies, so it's not the same. The data, the core data. So we have the description, unit price, quantity, invoice total, invoice number, date, but the layout changes. So we'll have to have this in account when we are setting up the extractor that will extract the data from the invoices. So the first step here will be to set up the taxonomy. So the taxonomy is where we'll define the files, the document types that we'll process on our document understanding solution, and also the fields to extract from each document type. So the invoices, receipts, and so on. So to access the taxonomy manager, here on the top, we can see the option taxonomy manager, which should appear after installing the required packages. So when we open here, by default will appear nothing. So here then later will appear the list of document types that we have added to our taxonomy. So to add a new document type, so we click here on this button and just enter the document type name. So in our case, it will be invoice. So I will just press save. And here you can see that we have now a document type created. Also, later, the more documents types we have added here on the taxonomy, it might be better to categorize them by group and categories. So we can create a group like semi-structured. So for semi-structured documents. And just then inside we can create a category like financial. So the category of the document type. And then we can put this document type assigned to a specific group and category just for better organization. So now that we have the document type created, let's create some fields that we want to extract from the invoice. So for example, here we can extract the invoice number, for example, and invoice date and due date. So let's start by these three fields first. So to add a new field, we click here and now enter the field name. So it can be invoice number. And now here the field type. So here we will set the type, the data type of the field. So it can be a table, Boolean, an address, a name, a date, a number, or text. So I'll just set here the text. And then for the invoice date and due date, so let's extract here. So here set date, and here let's choose the data type date. And also let's just add here due date for the other dates. And now let's say that we want to extract also the table. So the data from the table, so the description, unit price, quantity, and the line amount. So here is very important. So to set up the tables here in the taxonomy, first we have to have a field that will represent the table as a whole. So I'll name here items that basically will be for the whole table. And so here the field type, now it's very important to be table, because when we create a field type of type table here, then we can add the table columns. And so in our case will be the description and unit price, quantity, and amount. So here for the description, let's just add description and text. So I'll try to not be a bit more fast here. Then here the quantity. So we can set the field type to a number. And then let's also extract the line amount. So we can put here line amount. And so here we can put also a number. And then we can also put the unit price. So we have here the unit price. So we can extract also unit price, also number. And so after setting up here the table, we can just add other field. For example, let's add the total of the invoice. So here, total, the field type, number, and save. And that's basically it. So then if we want, we can always change later, edit, add new fields, add new document types if we want. So now to save, we just have to close. And after we close, if we refresh here the project, we can see that it's created a new folder, document processing. And now it has a file taxonomy, .json. And so this file basically has the whole setup that we did here on the taxonomy manager. So we never need to touch basically on this file. So we just need to change, whenever we want to change the taxonomy, just open the taxonomy manager and do the needed changes. So after that, so the first step, then after having the taxonomy setup, we need to load the taxonomy. So for that, we use the load taxonomy activity, which basically will provide as output the taxonomy that we have created. So we just need to create a variable here that will be of type taxonomy. And so having the taxonomy loaded, that will be needed. So it will be mainly needed for the classification and the extraction, because from the taxonomy, we can know the document types to process, and also then that will be needed to classify. And also on the extraction, we need to know the fields to extract per each document type. So that's why the taxonomy is very important. So after loading the taxonomy, we have to use the activity digitize documents. So this activity will be to extract the document text and also technical information from the document, such as document metadata, the skew angles from the document, the language, and so more technical data about the document that will be stored on the variable that comes from this property, document object model. So first we have to indicate the document path. So to keep it simple in the beginning, I'll just here copy the path of one of these files, just to be more straightforward here on the beginning. So I'll copy the path and store the path on a variable. And so I'll just create the variable str file path, and then later we will change to the queue items approach. So this is just to be more straightforward here on the beginning. And so here we will pass the file path. So that is now here on this variable, and then output. So we can see that we got the document text and the document object model. Also very important to mention that in case if needed, it will be using the OCR. So by default, it uses the UiPath document OCR. Also, you have the freedom to use other OCRs if you want. You can use the Microsoft OCR, Tesseract from Google, also OmniPage. So there are a lot of options, but at least from my experience, the UiPath document OCR works really well. So here, let's declare the variables here to store the document text, and also the document object model that will contain more technical data information from the document. And now let's just see how it's working. So I'll just use here a write line activity. I'll just add here breakpoints, so then we can see on the debug panel the data here on these two variables. So I will just run here. Okay, so invalid IP key. Okay, so we are getting here an exception. So you can see that on a UiPath document OCR activity, we pass the API key, which by default, usually it retrieves the API key available on the tenant, on the instant automation cloud instance that we are connected. So what I will do, I will get the one that I have here on the tenant to make sure it's the right one. So also just a remark, it's important, ideally on production use cases, we will store the API key on a credential asset on orchestrator, but as it's just here for demo purposes, we can just use like this. And okay, so I'll just run again. Okay. Okay, just got here again the exception. Okay. I'm Okay, so I will just try to regenerate the key. So I'll just regenerate it to make sure I'm getting a valid one. Okay. I'm sorry just for this inconvenience. Okay, so let's try now to pass the new updated API key. Um, Priya, can you hear me? Just
Yes, I can
are
hear
you
you,
able to
Marcelo.
see if you are able to use here the digitize document activity with API key? I'm getting here just a small issue. I tested before here the session, but I'm not sure why I'm getting here the invalid API key.
Oh,
I got it today in the morning, but then
I
it
think there
started
was
working.
something. Yeah, they started doing something in the EU region. I think there is something going on in the cloud. Maybe, yeah, let's
Not sure if this was affected, but
let me give
um,
you the endpoint. Maybe we can test it with the endpoint instead.
yeah, sure. Okay,
Get
so
the endpoint.
we can try. I mean, I think by default it uses the default endpoint, even if it's not here,
Mm-hmm.
because I've
Yeah,
tested without the endpoint and it works and it worked. I guess, but yeah, we can try that.
yeah.
We can try that. Let's just document OCR endpoint. I'm just getting it. Okay. By anyway, I'll
I've
paste
sent
here
you.
on. Okay, thank you. Thanks a lot.
Yeah,
So I'll
maybe
just
check.
paste. Let's just paste here. Uh,
Yeah, someone suggested that the API key could be expired.
I just regenerated it again.
Yeah.
Yeah, I generated it right now. Yeah. Yeah, the thing about I got this on the morning, but then it disappeared the error. I can try to generate the API key again. So let's just do it. So I'm going here to generate API key. Okay, so
Oh,
okay,
Marcelo, maybe is your studio connected to the regular community one or you're using the staging one?
the staging, yeah, it's
Oh,
connected to the
okay.
staging. So I'll just regenerate just to let's see. Okay, I got a new API key. Okay, so okay. Okay. I can try maybe to connect to the community one just to see if it works. But yeah, okay, let me see. Okay. Okay. Let's just try. I'll just connect to the Automation Cloud, the community one. Just a second. Okay.
Maybe on the activities package,
Mhm.
like just go to the default one and like maybe just downgrade on that one.
Yeah, we can try, but yeah,
Yeah,
not
but
sure
you're on
because
the 22.0. That's the same one that I was using. Yeah.
I also tried while I was testing.
Hmm.
It was with this version also. It was working. Yeah. Not sure if it's because of the outage, but we can try with that, or maybe yeah. The thing without it, we can test the project. Just wait a bit. Okay. Can try, but I'm not sure if that will solve.
Someone suggested that like you haven't changed your default OCR engine, right?
We can use like other OCR. The thing is that when you use the classification, it will fail again because of the API key. Yeah, that's the problem. Okay, let's just. We could use here the tesseract, for example, but the thing is that when you go to the classification, it will fail again because it will need
Yeah.
it will need well, let's just here just update again, just a second. Meanwhile, can you test just to see if you get the same thing, if you are able, just to see really if well, you can see now that we've used the tesseract one, and so because we don't have to provide here the API key to use OCR, we are getting it working. So we got the document text, also the document object model that contains key data like metadata from the document, like the number of pages, the skew angle, and so on. So it has a lot of information that will be useful for the next steps. So after getting the text from the document, we have to classify it. As Priya mentioned, if you are sure you just have one document type coming as input, if you are sure it will be always invoice, you could avoid the classification because you already know the document type that you will process and already know the fields to extract. If you have more or you are unsure of the document types that might arise appear on the as input, so it will be always better to use the classification. So here we just have invoices for now, but let's use again the classification anyway, so we can see how to set up. So if we search here for scope, we can see here the classified document scope. And so here, so here, first we have to pass the document path. So it will be the file path. Then here the document text, which is on this variable. Then we have to pass the document object model and also the taxonomy. So we pass here the taxonomy. And well, as output, we'll get the classifications results. So we can already declare a variable that will have the classification results. And now we have to drop here the classifiers that we want to use. We can use one or more. We have the freedom to choose the classifiers that we want to use. So here we'll use the intelligent keyword classifier, which basically we train it with a bunch of samples. And then we train with these samples. And so we will use it for this use case. If you want, we can use also other classifiers. So we could use a generative classifier that uses GenAI to classify documents, also keyword-based classifier, where we just insert a bunch of keywords, key keywords that are related to a specific document type, or else we have the option to use the machine learning classifier. So now here, we just have to create the learning file path that will be for this classifier to store the learning. So I'll just click here on document processing to create a new file. So I'll call it intelligent keyword classifier.json. And now here we can just pass the file. And now let's click on manage learning. And so here we can see that will appear basically the document types that we have defined on the taxonomy. So here's just appears the invoice is the only one that we have. So now here we can start the training. So so here we can select the documents. So I'll select all invoices that I have here. So let's just select and click open. And then click on start training. Okay, let's just use, I'll just use older OCR meanwhile. So it's having these errors. So I'm using all the Tesseract. So it takes now some time to do the training. And then after the training, we just have to enable here the classifier on configure classifier. So it will be used for each document processing. So let's just wait a bit, it takes some time. So if it shows just like 2 files, it will be faster, but yeah, it's 10. So then here we can see basically some keywords that were extracted from the documents uploaded. And now we can see that we are getting here an error, and that's because we have to enable the classifier because currently we have no classifier enabled for classification. So to enable, we just have to click on configure classifiers. And here now on invoice, just enable the classifier that we have using right now for invoices. And then also have here the minimum confidence. So here we can set which is the minimum confidence from the classifier that is allowed to accept a classification. So if we use here 20, it means that if we get a classification, if the classifier gives a classification that has a confidence less than 20, it will be not get as classified. So it's like a threshold that we can use, like we can set a minimum confidence acceptable from the classifier. And also we can set different confidence for different classifiers. So just to give an idea, we could use here other classifier, for example. And then here we could just set other confidence. So we and also use the classifier for other document types. So we have this freedom here to do this kind of setup. So then after classification, we can just drop here the present classification station for validating the classification. Also, we could use create an action on action center. That will be the more unattended way. So with the classification station, it will appear just a window on the screen to validate the extraction, the classification. So here I'll just pass the file path, the document text, the document object model, the taxonomy, and also here the automatic classification results that is on this variable. And now here, validated classification results. So the classification validated by the user. So we can just declare here the variable validated classification results. So, and that's basically it. So let's just run. Let's see if it works now. So first, it will extract the text from the document. And yeah, we are getting here the error. So we can, oh, so I think, well, document understanding, let's just, I think I put this, I should have this, so let's just try. No, but yeah, it's not about that. Okay. Priya, were you able to see if it works on your side just by...
Yeah, I was testing, but like my VM machine crashed, so I'm I'm trying to pull that up.
Okay.
Yeah, someone was saying like instead of pasting the API key directly, like maybe put it on a notepad or like, put it on an editor and then paste it. Sometimes
Okay.
they could be like,
Okay, that's valid too. Okay, I will try it. Just give me a second. I'll
and
get it
without any
again.
slashes. Yeah.
I'll just get it again. Okay, so notepad. Okay. Okay. Okay, let's just... Okay, let's just paste it on a notepad. Make sure there is no any additional space in the end or in the start. Yeah, but it's... Yeah, it's just getting the exception. Well, I'll just try one more time to regenerate, but let's see. Okay, I'll just try it again one more time here. Yeah, I'm not getting it working here. Well, while you are trying, Priya, I will follow along with what will be the next steps.
Yeah, just
Without
keep
a part of testing will not be included, but well, at least it's possible to learn at the same time while we are having these issues. So, okay, so after classification, we can validate the extracted data with classification station or else creating a task on action center. So we can use the action, to create the task on action center for document understanding. And then, so yeah, basically you'll use the create document validation action and then use the wait for the feedback from the user on action center. But so after the classification being validated, we could use the train extractors, train classifier activity to train the classifier with the validated data with the input from the user. So for that, we could use the train classifier scope. And so here we have to pass the document path again, then the document text, the document object model, the human validated data. So this is very important to be the validated classification results. And oops, not this one, but here below. And then here the taxonomy. And now we have to drag the trainer activity for the intelligent keyword classifier. So here we pass the activity. And basically here we just have to pass the learning file path. So let's pass, and then we are having here this issue because we have to enable the trainer for the invoice document type. And that's basically it. So we have here set up the training for the intelligent keyword classifier with the feedback. So with training data, that is basically the feedback from the user given at the classification station. Then we have the extraction. So for the extraction, we will use the extraction scope. So here, the data extraction scope. And so here, very similar with the classifier. So we have to pass the document path, the document text, the document object model, the taxonomy, and then the classification result. And you can see that the classification result shows as a single value, is not an array that is expected. However, when we get the classification from the classifier, we get an array of classification results because it will give a classification per each document page. So here we will use a for each activity to loop throughout each classification result. And so here we'll pass the classification's results, which is an array of classification results. And now put inside the data extraction scope. And we can see here on the for each that we get, so the current item, the item name will be current classification result. So here we can just call it. And now we have to use extractors. So if we search here on activities, we can see that we have a lot of extractors that we can use. So the form extractor, the generative extractor, machine learning extractor, and regex based extractor. So for our use case, which is invoices, so semi-structured documents, so where the core data, so we can find the same type of data on every invoice. So the date, invoice number, total, the table with the item description, quantity, and unit price. So we can find out this data, but it's not always in the same place. So per each vendor, the layout changes, the model changes, so the data will be in different places. So that's very suitable for a machine learning extractor. And so so here we have to pass or the endpoint to the machine learning server, or we can also pass a public endpoint, or just use an ML skill that is deployed on on AI sender. So for you to use, it probably will be easier to use the, at least when we are learning, the public endpoint. So I'll just paste it here on the chat, just a second. Okay, so let's just paste here on the chat. Okay, oh, okay, let's put it on the meeting group chat. Okay, I just pasted here the public endpoint. So then advantage of using the ML skill is that you can then retrain the, train the ML skill that you have deployed in AI Center with the feedback from the users on extraction, for example. So here I can just use the invoice ML skill, but in your case, you can also just use the public endpoint if you don't have an ML skill deployed on your instance. Okay, so then we click on Get Capabilities. And now if we go to Configure Extractors, here we can see the document type. And so now first, we will enable basically for this document type, for invoice, that all fields will be extracted by the machine learning extractor. However, we could also have other extractor, for example, the regex based extractor to extract, for example, the date. Just as an example, we could extract different fields with other extractors for the same document type. So the kind of hybrid approach. So here, for example, for the invoice numbers, if we click here on the dropdown, we can see here these keywords. So this basically, for example, here for invoice number, will indicate invoice-NDO, that is basically we are indicating for the machine learning extractor that for the invoice number, we want to extract the invoice number that is found on the document. Then for the date, we can see here date. Then for the due date, we have here also here the field due date. So the machine learning extract will target the due date. Then for the items, for the table on the document, very important, this part is to choose items. So when we choose items, everything that belongs to the table will appear now here, the fields to extract from a table. So for the description, we want a description, then here the quantity, line amount, and then here unit price. And then the total. So in the end here we have the total. So we can here just select total. And yeah, it's basically that. So we have here already indicated the extractor, the fields that we want to extract. So we can save. And so after extracting the data, we can, so I will not run because probably I will have the same error, but I'll just run anyway, so maybe it will work. Let's just see. Okay, so we are getting here the error. So I'll just advance. So after the extraction, we can present the validation station so the user can validate the extraction. Just important to mention, validation station is useful for attended use cases, while the opposite, so creating a task on Action Center, is bad for an antenna because, well, it doesn't run on user machine, it runs on the virtual machine or on a server. And so while the user doesn't complete a task, other jobs can run on the same machine. So here, I'll just track the present validation station. And so document path. So here we pass the document path, the document text, document object model, the taxonomy. And then here we can see that is expected to pass the automatic extraction results. So we get it from here. So I'll just click declare a variable auto extraction results and pass it here. And as output, we get the validated extraction results. So the extraction validated by the user. So here I'll just declare the variable validated extraction results. Okay, so after the validation of extraction results, we can run the trainer for the extractor. So in this case, for our machine learning extract, for the ML skill that we have deployed on AI Center. So if we are search for trainer, better, let's put here scope. We can see here the train extractors scope. So this is to train the extractors. So here we pass the file path, the document text, the document object model. And now here we have to drag the trainer activity. So the activities that will train the machine learning model. So here, if we search for trainer, we can see that we have the machine learning extractor trainer. And so here we just have to select the project that we have on AI Center for these machine learning models. So I'll select the project invoices and then the data set that is there. So the data set invoices. And so just I can show you else this part maybe is useful. So basically, I'll just, go here to AI Center. So we have a project created. So whenever you want to deploy a new ML skill, first we'll choose here a package, ML package. So here we can just choose one out of the box packages. And you can see that you have, many available. So you can just use one for document understanding. And here a lot of packages, well, a lot of machine learning models to extract data from documents. So we could just choose here receipts, for example, and then click on submit. And after that, we can create the ML skill. So we just give a name to the ML skill, choose the package that we have submitted before, choose the package major version, minor version, and we just click on create, and it takes some time to the ML skill to be deployed. And then we can just create a data set that will receive in fact, the user's feedback. And with that, we are able to do this setup here to train then later the machine learning extractor. So now we just have here to enable we have to enable the trainer extractor. So for the machine learning extractor. And now here, okay, we have to pass also, of course, the human validated data that comes from the present validation station, or also from Action Center. So here, let's pass the validated extraction results. And with this, well, the validated extraction, we will train, later we can train the model with the validation done by the user on the extraction. After training the extractors, and of course, this is optional, is not mandatory to train the extractors or classifiers, but if you can, it will be better. So the models improve, the classification extraction can improve over time. So after, after validated extraction, we can export the extraction results by using the export extraction results activity. So basically, this activity, we pass the validated extraction results, the ones that were validated by a user, and then as output, we will get a data set, which is basically a collection of data tables with, that will basically contain the extraction results from the document. So here, I'll just name them here, for example, extraction, dataset extraction, for example. And you can see here, basically on variables panel, the dataset variable type. So with this, we can now basically do what we want to do with the data. So let's imagine the scenario that we want to export the extraction to an Excel file. So here, we will use first the for each activity. And why? So for each extraction, we will have at least two tables. So one is a table with the data not formatted, and then we'll have other table with the date formatted. So we can use the for each to loop each table and write for each table on the same Excel file, but in a different sheet. So here we can just do a dataset extraction.tables to iterate over each table from the dataset. And now very important on the for each, set argument type to data table, because is what we will iterate here. And then we can use a right range activity, right range workbook. So it's better to use this one than the other Excel's activity, because you might find a problem. So if you use the other Excel activities, like the use Excel file, you can find problems on the writing because of the lack of delay between each iteration. And so this activity doesn't even need to have Excel installed on your machine or on the machine where the bot runs. So it's the most stable one for this use case, at least. So here, basically, we have to provide first the workbook path. So the file that will be created. So here, let's indicate, for example, I'll just create here a folder called output. And so let's start here on these folders just for this demo. So first, let's get the path until our project. So we use environment.current directory. And now I'll just use path.combine to build here the full path. So first we go into our project. Then we have the folder output. And then let's define the file name for the Excel file name. So here we can use, for example, the name of the file that we are processing. So for that, we just use path.get file name without extension, and then pass here the variable that has the full path to the file to get the file name. And then a very important, so we have to add a .xlsx to basically add the Excel file extension. And so with that, basically, if it doesn't exist Excel file on this path with this file name, this activity creates by default a new file with the name that we have defined here on the folder that we are indicating. Then here for the sheet name, we can use the name of the table. So here on the for each, we can see current data table. So we can use here current data table dot table name, because each table from the data set will have a different name. So we can use that. And then, well, to write, we can use here the current data table to write, well, the data that is on the table. Well, and well, with that, basically the end result is that we will get here on the output folder, on this case, an Excel file for each file processor, and each file will have at least two sheets. So one with the extraction without formatting, and then other with the fields, the values formatted. Okay, so then, well, I'll just here see, just run now, just see if, okay. Okay, so now, well, if you have any questions, well, just tell here on the chat if you can. So let's say that now we want to create just a dispatcher that will populate a queue item on orchestrator queue. And from this queue item, our document understand will consume this queue and process each queue item that will be basically a file to process. So we could just create a new file here. It will be, well, the best to create a separated project. So I'll just create a simple project, so a blank processor, so to be more simple here. So we could call it DU dispatcher. Well, I'll just here give another name. And so just keep very straightforward. So I'll just here, well, loop over each file that I have on the folder. Of course, the best will be then to build this on a robust enterprise framework, so on a more robust and scalable solution project. But just as a demo to keep it simple, let's do it like this. So let's iterate over each file in folders so we can use this activity. And so here we can provide the folder, which the folder where are the files located. So the input folder, which could be, well, it could be from OneDrive, it could be a Google Drive. So in this case, we will use other activity. Also, well, we could get from a local file storage. So this is what we are simulating here. So here I'll just indicate the folder where I have the files. And well, now we'll iterate over each file, and over each file we can just use add queue item. And so here, first we need to have a queue created on orchestrator. So just to show you, sorry, so this is a long one. So I'll just go to orchestrator. And so here, I just create a new folder. You can see here that we have here a queue du underscore files to process. So you can just create a new queue very simply by clicking on add new queue, define here the queue name. And here, well, if you want the maximum number of retries for each filled queue item. And so you can see here that there is already some transactions here. So, well, let's populate here this queue. And so here, what we can pass for the queue, to store on the queue item, very important, it will be the file path. So where the file is stored. So here we can use current file. So current file represents the file that is being iterated here on the loop, and then dot full name. And with that, we can then access the file name. We can get access to the file extension. So this is the most important piece of information, and the only one that in fact we need, because with the file path, we can then know the file name if you want, also the file extension if for some reason it's needed. So, well, I'll just click save now. And then, so I'll just run here. So let's see if it's added a queue item per each file that we have. So execution was successful. So now I'll just open here again, orchestrator. And if you see now, we can see now that was added a new item per each file. And so here you can see the file path that was, well, the file path of the file that was iterated. So we can see that it's different across each queue item. So it worked well. So with that, well, we can, so here on the, with the dispatcher here already working, we can go back to the document understanding project. And well, we can here just simply, we can do it from here already, or just use a flowchart sequence. We can use a flowchart so to be more visual. Both ways will work. So I'll just here add a flowchart. And here, for example, we can, on the beginning, use a get transaction item activity to get a new queue item from the queue. So here we just have to indicate the queue name. And as output, we'll get the transaction item. So let's declare it here. And so if there is a queue item to process, if we get something from this activity, we will get access to the queue item properties from this variable. Else, if there is no queue item to process on the queue, this variable will have a null value, so will be nullable. So we can, to check if we got really a queue item to process, we can use here if condition. So a flow decision for flowcharts, which is an if activity basically. And so here we can do the condition. So if the transaction item is not nothing, so if there is something on this variable, that means that we got a queue item to process. And so, well, with that, we can just, well, then here this will be the main file, but let's just here drag here the main now. And so if this is true, we will, so if there is a file to process, so we can just write here something to be more readable. If there is a file to process, we can invoke our other workflow where the document understanding, so the document processing will be performed. So basically here, we can just create an argument to pass the file path. So it can be in str file path, argument of direction in. So we want to receive something from outside to our document processing workflow of type string. And so we save here, and then here we just import the arguments on the flowchart, and here, so we can see the argument that we have created. And so here we can pass the file path by doing transaction item dot specific content. So with specific content, we are accessing the content stored. We can access the content stored on the queue. So here we just have to pass the key. So just to explain better, indicate here the name of the field from which we want to get the value. So here will be file path, and then here .toString, and well, by this way, we will pass the file path here to our DU workflow. We could here name it DU, and this will be, well, the main file, the flowchart one, because it's from there where the process runs. So we could set this one as the main instead, the flow here where we have the flowcharts. And well, else, if there is nothing to process, we can just use a simple log message here and just like something like there is no queue items to process. Something like this. And yeah, it will be, well, like this way, that we could set up a more simple document understanding solution. Of course, then here we can delete here the assign because we are already getting the file path from outside. And also very important, we are now using the argument. So, and here we are using the str file path on the activity. So here we can do a little trick here to don't have to rename manually each activity. So what we are passing, we can just rename here to in str file path. And now we can delete the variable. So we don't have to set up again each activity here with the argument that has a different name. So, and yeah, that's, well, basically it. I would like here to run, but well, I think we just got a bit unlucky, but I'm just trying again to see if it works. Okay, it's not working yet. But
Marcelo.
yeah, yes.
Yeah, one of the suggestions from the community was like maybe you can just sign out of the cloud portal and probably like and just sign in again. Maybe we can test it out.
Okay, we can try that. I even can try to do the logout from the assistant, but yeah, I'll try. Well, I'll try here on my side. Okay, let's just well do the.
Yeah, that's like the default solution. Have you tried turning it off and on again?
Yeah, that's true. Like doing like restart just works. Yeah, that's true. That's completely valid. Let's try. Yeah. Well, let's try. Okay. Let's try first like this. So no, we have now to run from the main, which, well, gets the transaction item. Okay, so now I'll just, well, log out from the assistant. Okay, not starting. Well, let's just, okay, now okay. Okay.
And I'll tell you, sometimes, Marcelo, it'll work as soon as this session finishes. I don't know if it's the combination of Zoom and cloud.
Yeah, I don't
I've
know.
always like had trouble with workshops.
It happens, yeah. It happens, just happens, yeah.
And many
But
of us,
yeah,
like
I tested
even in the
before
community,
when we
yeah,
was like
it
doing
works.
tests. Yeah, it worked. On the morning, I got well these, but then it worked, and now yeah, I just got surprised with this. I was not expecting at all. Yeah. But well, I just reconnected on the system, but yeah, it's not working. Well, I can try from other accounts. Let's just do a lot of other tries. So I'll try here from other accounts. So let's just give me 1 minute. Okay. Okay, so let's try sign in again. Okay. Just a second, took some time. And meanwhile, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask. Yeah, while we'll just try here this other accounts just to see if it works. Well,
Yeah, and don't worry, like if I mean, like I'm pretty sure, like once this session is over, like he'll fix it, and probably like in the next session before we start, we can even share like what was the fix. So this is probably like something very simple.
yeah, probably, yeah. I don't see what's the reason here. Well, so let's just try
And
here
I know
another.
like many of us can vouch for this, like, when you're going for UAT, that's when it will stop working right before you show
Indeed,
it to your customer. So that's
indeed.
how it is. So don't worry
True.
about that.
Well, so
And Marcelo, there's a question here. Probably I'll post it to you. So is there a way to create the DU project with autopilot?
in part, I believe it could work. I didn't try that yet. I already use Autopilot to try to build some workflows. I mean, if you describe the that you want to build a document understanding project that will and extract and classify data, I believe it will very probably it will do like a starting point. Now I admit I didn't test that yet on my side. So
Yeah, that's a very good question though. Again, it depends on like how we phrase the prompt, right? So like
exactly.
you said, like if you write the exact prompt in order to create that DU project, I think like it will understand and probably create it.
Yeah, that's true. So, well, let's just try with this API key from other account. Let's see if we have luck. So, well, let's use here document OCR. Okay, UiPath Document OCR. So, okay, now, okay, let's just run until this UiPath Document OCR. Oh, there you have, it's true, there is no, so I'll run from here. Okay. Okay. Oh, yeah, that's true. Because I switched it to another account, and this transaction
No,
item doesn't
yeah.
exist. So no problem, because we can solve the, at least to test, we can, well, to use again, assign just this argument here. Let's just to see if it works now, but let's run from here. Yeah, it's not working. Yeah. Unfortunately, I'm using from other accounts, so I'm trying from other accounts that I have, but yeah, it's not working. I don't know if it's something on my network that could restrict, but it will be very weird, but I don't know. I have to verify. Yeah, I have to verify that. But yeah, as soon as I know, yeah, I can give us let everyone knows what was. Yeah,
Yeah,
but
we could even post it on the forum. Like, we have this category that we have, right? So we'll definitely keep you all posted.
yeah, I'm sorry for that. Not expected at all. Not expected at all this. Yeah, it was very unexpected. But well, then yeah, this was we can see like if you did follow this on your side, probably you have it working. Probably, yeah, I believe it will work. With queue items, so with the transaction data from with the queue items from the queue, and yeah, that's well basically it. So now I just opening here, well, the again for the presentation. So So just, well, I can just do here a summarization, basically use the load taxonomy to load the taxonomy that where we had defined the document types, the digitize document activity to extract the text and technical information from each document, the classify document scope to classify each document to its type, so to know if it's an invoice, a receipt, or other document type. The data extraction scope to extract the data from the document. And then you can use the classification station, validation station to, well, to make the user validate the extraction and correct it if needed. Then we can use the train classifier scope and train extractor scope to train the classifiers and extractors, and then export extracted result to export the extracted data to a data set that then when we can do with it, like we can just, for example, write an Excel file with extraction data. And then just here about the confidence. So we have seen like on the extractor and classifiers that we have not only on them, but mostly on them, we have the confidence thing. So this is basically a numerical value that goes from 0 to 100 that basically means, as it says here, the estimation, the algorithm estimation of how well it was performed a certain task. So in this case, how confident it is that the extraction given, the given extraction is right one. And so we have, well, the confidence on the classification level. So how confident was the classifier on the given classification to a specific document type. And also we have the confidence at extraction level. So on each field, so on the field confidence and table confidence and the table cell confidence. So on the data, on the pieces of data from each table, like the description, unit price, line amount, and so on. And also we have the OCR confidence. So like on the digitized document activity, we use an OCR, and so also OCR, the UiPath Document OCR, for example, provides a confidence of how well it was able to recognize the characters from the document. And so we can use we can play with the confidence to set like the thresholds. So what is the minimum confidence that we have for a classification, for the extraction, and also we can have different confidence for different classifiers. So for example, for the intelligent keyword classifier, we can have a specific confidence number, a minimal confidence level. And then for the machine learning, learning classifier, for example, we can have other confidence. So we can set up, well, confidence for other, well, for different fields. And well, and that's basically it. So now it's time for Q&A, I think. So feel free to ask any questions or any doubts, curiosities here regarding the document understanding.
Okay, there were a lot of questions in the chat.
Okay.
I will enable now the option to unmute. So I think everyone is able to unmute and ask questions now. We'll stay just 10 minutes for Q&A because we're already over the hour, and we apologize for that. But I think one question that appeared, Marcelo, is about the project you showed, and whether we can give the audience anything to work the same project, like data sets or anything you could give for them to replicate the project.
Yeah, I can provide like the project files, the invoices, and so on.
If you can give it to me in an email with the presentation, I will just simply upload it on the event page as well. So they have it as resources, and it will be on the forum thread as well.
Okay,
So,
yeah, I'll just maybe make it a bit more readable, so it'll just be more clear. And yeah, I just
no worries. I mean, we'll upload the presentation tomorrow morning, but this project, I think tomorrow by end of day, anytime in the next 2 days, it will be okay as reference for practice. We have Ashish with a question. Ashish?
Yes. So what I am trying to understand, so if I develop my project with the DU framework which is available, so the document understanding framework will give us a taxonomy based on so I get classified as documents, semi-structured and structured documents. If I have a particular use case for which I will have to create my own taxonomy, so should I be replacing it, or I am supposed to use any of these things which is available with? Can I replace it with my taxonomy?
This well, when you create a project with the document understanding template, it comes already with a taxonomy with some document types defined, so you can already play around and see how it works. It also has some files on the specific folder, so you can already, well, by default test the framework, the template. If you want, you can just delete what's there on the taxonomy and build everything from scratch, or you can just maybe use something that is already there. Like let's say that you want set up the extract from document type that is already added here on the taxonomy. You can use that and just modify it for your needs. So yeah, you can do that.
And
Yeah,
Ashish,
so
this is just like a template, for you to start off, right? So this just gives you like a base start, and on top of that, you can always customize it.
okay, I got it. Because since these are available with invoices and receipts, and the structured one is available with WNet, so most like invoices will be taken care. But if I have some other kind of document, probably I would have to create my own and then replace the taxonomy, I believe. So that is one thing I was in two minds here. So thank you. So yeah, I could understand better. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you, Ashish, for the question. Let's
Thank you.
see, anyone else? The last question for Marcelo and Priya. I think many were addressed in the chat as well. There was a lot of information going in the chat, and I'm glad that I've seen you also helping each other with details. So that shows that many of you are really into this journey and the training efforts. And there's a lot of great feedback as well. So yeah. Make sure when you give the great feedback to put it in the channel for all, so Priya and Marcelo can see it, not as a DM. Of course, they would love to see it. So thank you all. Oh, we have Jakub. Let's also give Jakub a chance. Jakub?
Yes.
Yeah.
First of all, thank you, Marcelo, for this presentation. It was great. And my question, would it be any chance that we could see some more sophisticated project for unattended scenario where you are using the full UiPath template for unattended robot with all the states and etc. Especially, I am wondering because the template itself, it contains first of all sequence, then inside there is some, for example, for each, and then inside there is a flowchart, and itself this whole concept is doing not it is not working exactly as the best practices in UiPath says that you shouldn't place a flowchart in the sequence. So I wonder, is there any chances for us to see more complex demo of the UiPath template connected with document understanding?
Yeah, I think we could have, but that will need other sessions. So yeah, it's cool.
It could
We
be
could
done
go,
online, offline, of course. For example,
but
in forum thread or something like that, if there will be
or
any
that.
chance.
Yes, we could like just post like a use case there.
Yeah,
Maybe we
as a use
post.
case, yeah.
Yeah, that's something. Well, me and Priya and Lovely can work on that. Like create really end-to-end solution that more, well, more complex. But more complex scenario. I think I'm open to that. So,
Uh,
I think we could do it. Yeah.
I think dispatcher and performer, I mean the last performer, is quite easy to understand for everyone, because it is like normal robots that are preparing data and then working, for example, with some applications. But the middle one, which you showed today, it's quite a new thing for some of the people, and it would be good to know the best approach with best practices from UiPath, how to create the robot that achieve those stage in the whole environment, especially that you showed the basic one, and it's of course the best one for the starter. But then it would be great to know how to follow the best practices with the whole template.
Yeah, sure. I think it's something that we can work on. Me, Priya, and Lolly, we will connect later and see what we could do best approach on that, and we could post like as a use case on the forum. Probably, I think it will be the best. But yeah,
Jacob, one more thing I like to add there is, if you go to the marketplace, there is something called as solution accelerators. So if you just filter by DU, you will find like, 3 or 4 use cases that have already been built by UiPath itself. So you
Okay.
can just download and like customize it like however you want for your specific use case, and see how that works, because they do have invoices, accord forms, like major large use cases. And this is like, it's already been like we've been giving as MVPs, we've gave feedback to UiPath, and they listen and they give us this solution accelerators, which I feel is a great start if you want to
All
look
right.
at use cases as well. And like Marcelo said, like we'll be happy to help you with additional questions once you take a look at that, because I see that that's what you're looking for.
I saw the basic template from UiPath, and the config file is so huge with all the business rules, scenarios, and etc. that it could be a little bit confusing when you start to read that. Of course, it just needs time. Okay, thank you. I think that's answering my need.
Sure. And feel free to like tag us on forum, like, as you go through that documentation, because I'll tell you, we all started at zero. So when I started with the DU framework, I also felt overwhelmed. But if you look at that documentation, even with a simple template, they have this documentation PDF that gives you like step by step, and
Okay.
also explains what each workflow does at the workflow level. So just go through that, take your time. And if you do have any questions, we'll be happy to help you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Jakub. Thank you, Priya and Marcelo, for stepping up to the task. I just want to, before we leave, I want to shortly show you something. So I've noticed there are still a lot of questions in the chat related to the program. Please make sure you do check the program page before you ask. So this should be your main resource for every information, every piece of information regarding the program. Basically, all you have asked, it is already here, like the program timeline, the program resources, the mandatory steps, and the mechanism of the program to certification. You will find everything here. Whatever is left that it's not covered by our program page, please ask in the form thread. And there were also a lot of questions regarding the completion of this specific specialized AI associate training in UiPath Academy. So in order to get the end verification test for this specific program, it is mandatory that you complete the specialized AI associate training in Academy. There are some of you who, in truth, they might have already covered the automation developer part for the automation developer associate certification before. I will try to talk to the Academy team, because currently I understood that these courses do not appear as completed for those who have already progressed through this course. So I will try to set up a ticketing system with Academy to see whether they can equivalent these specific courses. The reason why they do not appear as completed, for those of you who have before completed the automation developer training, is because the ones in this curriculum are using a different version. But the truth is that they are using the version that you will have in the certification exam. So it's mapped, the version that is mapped in the courses will be mapped in the exam as well. So for those of you who have the patience to go again and complete them, even if you already completed, it's good for you to complete them. If not, I will try to find an alternative. I cannot promise at this point, but we will see with Academy what can be done. But for you to know, so yes, this is the whole learning plan that you have to complete in order to get the end verification test and the voucher for certification if you pass that one. Basically up to here, it's very much automation developer, what you would have progressed through if you were preparing for the UIRD certification or the automation associate developer certification. From here onwards, we are diving into AI capabilities of UiPath platform. Yes. All in all, it's a long learning plan, but specifically, the end part should be covered, and you have to have the completed learning plan for the end verification test of this series. Let me know if there are still any queries regarding this. And you will find for this session as well as for the previous ones a wrap-up email tomorrow. You will also find the wrap-up post in the forum thread, in the dedicated series forum thread, and we will talk to Marcelo to see whether we can get the files for the project maybe in the next 2 days to post them on the event page and in the wrap-up post as well, so you can do the same project and get a little bit of practice. I'm glad so many of you enjoyed today's session. We went 15 minutes over time already. So waiting to see you on Wednesday, same hour. Yes. And remember, we only have like 1 week and 1 more session to go till this is completed. So bear with us. It's an exciting journey for all of us. Thank you very much, Priya. Thank you very much, Marcelo. Thank you very much, Lovely. And have a nice evening, everyone, or a morning or afternoon. Bye.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.